Let's talk about this new Arrow Video limited edition release called the Nightwatch Collection. And there are two movies in this set. The first one is the 1994 movie Nightwatch. It is a Danish film. It actually, I guess in Danish, it is pronounced Nachten Vakten. That's probably pronounced wrong, but kind of close to that, Nachten Vakten. And that is the original one. Now, the second one from 2023, really new, is called Nightwatch Demons Are Forever. Now, this may seem familiar, Nightwatch, because there is a 1997 remake of this film, an American remake that stars Ewan McGregor, Patricia Arquette, and Nick Nolte, and Josh Brolin's in it as well. So, you're probably more familiar with that version. Now, I do believe I've seen part of that film. I'm not sure why I haven't seen the whole movie, but I do remember watching part of it, and something happened where I couldn't see the whole thing, but I do kind of remember digging it. And I did remember the first part of that film while watching this one. Now, there are some similarities. Now, unfortunately, that the American remake, which was directed by the same director, and I may pronounce this right, Ulla Bornedal, I think is how you pronounce his name, maybe. It's spelled like this. This is how you spell it. So it looks like it's Ol is how you would pronounce it, but I believe it's Ula is how it's pronounced. But he also he directed the American one as well. There might be a rights issue, because that would have been really sweet had it been included in this collection. Now, both of these movies here, this is a Blu-ray only release, unfortunately. It is not a 4K release, but we're going to talk about the way that the Blu-ray transfer looks here in just a few minutes. But if you would do me a favor, if you haven't done so already, if you would like this video. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Film. As you can see, I'm an avid physical media movie collector, and I've been doing reviews on this channel a little over a year now. And you can actually check out one of my earlier ones. I did another Danish. This was actually like a show, a mini-series called The Kingdom Trilogy, and you can check out that one on my channel. And this one, the Kingdom Trilogy, did something very similar to this, where they had the older version of it, I think in the 90s, the first two seasons, and then they did a recent update on it. So, and they had like some of the actors, and it's very jarring in both of them, but it's also a little comforting to see these actors aged, and there's such a huge time jump between the two. It's like you're watching one and they're young, and then the next time you're like, wow, they're old now. So like, boom. But I guess it's just life, but it's cool. It's kind of cool to revisit the characters in both of these instances, especially in the one where, well, really in both of them, but we're talking about Nightwatch and not really the Kingdom from here on out. The original Nightwatch stars Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who played Jaime Lannister on Game of Thrones, and most people are going to recognize him from that. Here he is really young in the 1994 one, and it co-stars as his girlfriend, Sophie Graball. I believe that's how you pronounce her name, but she plays his girlfriend in this one. I recognize her from a few other things. There is a Danish version of The Killing, the original version of The Killing. They did do an American version of that as well. But she was there's a show on Amazon Prime called Fortitude, which I actually kind of dig, but she plays one of the main characters on that show. So as far as the plot of this thing, Nicholas Coster-Waldau plays a college student named Martin, and he gets a new job as a night watchman, is at a medical facility it's fairly creepy. There's a morgue in there, and there's some other creepy rooms, and the way that it's lit and stuff, it's very, very creepy looking. So he gets this job, and he has to do these rounds every night, and so there's a lot of tension dealing with that. And to make things worse, there's like a serial killer out on the loose who is killing prostitutes. And some of those prostitutes, well, I guess all the prostitutes end up in that morgue as the film goes on. So that's kind of like the main driving plot of the film. And there's also a kind of a B plot. He's got his girlfriend, and then he's got a best friend named, his name's Jens is how it's spelled. So I guess it's how it's pronounced as well. Played by an actor named Kim Bonina. That's probably pronounced wrong as well. But his friend and him go to school together, and they have a kind of a bet thing where somebody has to kind of dare one of them to do something, and I guess whoever doesn't do it first ends up losing. So they're kind of daring each other to do some really kind of awful things throughout the film, and so that's kind of like a B subplot, and it kind of ties into the main plot a little bit. And his friend also has a girlfriend named Lot, and the four of them are kind of good friends together. And it kind of goes between them and then his job at this night watchman. And there's also a homicide detective who comes in there and wants to bring the bodies in, and he starts becoming like a larger part of the film. I'm not going to dig deep into the huge spoilers and let you know who the killer is or anything of that nature, but I will say that it is kind of a, it's not necessarily surprising anything that happens within the film, but I think it all works really well. This is all shot on location. It is an indie production, but it all has a very like kind of maybe organic, or just has a very like noirish feel to the whole thing, and some of it is fairly scary. It is a sign of a psychological horror serial killer film. In the second one, which takes place in I think 2022 or 2023, the main character of that one is Martin's, or Nicholas Coster Waldau's character's daughter, and she's got friends as well. So they kind of mirror what happened in the first one, where she's got like there's four friends as well, and she's like gets the very similar night watchman position that he had at the same place, and then like she starts really kind of diving in to the person that was a serial killer in the first one, and she kind of gets in over her head, and she kind of awakens the serial killer, who apparently, even though it seems like he died in the first one, but he's still alive. I'm not going to give away a lot of spoilers, but he does have what they say is a son in the film, and he's got like some followers and things of that nature, and it kind of starts a kind of a spiral of events. Now, this second movie also has Nikolai Coster-Waldau in it as her dad. Sophie Garbol does not return as the mother, unfortunately. Apparently, the character died between it, and she had a fairly bad death. I think she committed suicide because of the events of the first film. Kind of weighed on her really heavily. Now, the second film does deal a lot with trauma, and the trauma that from. It's weird because at the end of the first film, they don't seem like they're affected by it, but they are very young at the time, and they all seem. It actually has a fairly kind of a little bit of a corny, goofy ending where they have like all four of the younger college students. They have like a dual wedding, like they get married at the same time as part of another bet. So it has a kind of a goofy ending, lighthearted ending, but apparently this weighed really heavy on them. And I think that sometimes, especially when you're young, things kind of just bounce off of you. But in these characters, like some of them more than others, as time went on, this trauma that happened to them because of the serial killer, it affected them in a very awful way. And some of them just couldn't let it go. And because the ones that were so affected by it, it kind of affected everybody else. So it kind of just caused this, and this is from the director. I think this is from his perspective too, because he ends the first one very lighthearted, and I think because of the trauma he must have experienced over time, I think we all get that as we grow older, things are not as enchanting as they seem like they were, and things don't quite work out the way we hoped that they would. So we bring this trauma with us of death. You know, as the older we get, the more people that we know and love die, and we kind of, if we let that get to us too deep and too much, that trauma can be very devastating. And you do see the way this is written in a much maybe more mature way, but is it necessarily a better way of thinking? You tell me. So let's take a look at this release. Like I said, there are two films in here. They're Blu-ray disc, and I do like this slipcover. It's a little different than this cover here. Now this is Nightwatch. Now there is a reverse here for the other film, Nightwatch Demons Are Forever. Now if you look online, you won't find, or I haven't been able to find a lot about Nightwatch Demons Are Forever. They don't even have a Wikipedia page, and I don't know what's up with that. And Wikipedia needs to get on it. There's also, so there's a disc here. Here's a disc for the first film, and then there's a disc for the second film, both of them Blu-ray. And there's a little bit of special features on here we're going to talk about in just a moment. Inside of here, we have a booklet, and the booklet has It's like it has an essay in here, and it has a little bit of information about both the films. And there's Jens, the character Jens. And there's a very awesome sequence in the movie where there's this older night watchman here. So when he first comes into the night watch place, and he kind of brings him through and he shows him the ropes of the place. It's just such a bizarre, really awesome sequence that kind of follows him through this place. The lighting in this film is quite fantastic. The here there's the morgue there. Now they often go into the morgue area. And there's the detective, and let's see. And so there's a lot of pictures throughout this book, and there's some essays and things of that nature. It does say about the presentation here, and it doesn't say a lot about it. Here's what it says. It says Nightwatch is presented in 185.1, which is widescreen, with 5.1 and 2.0 Danish audio. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this film is subtitled. So if you can't handle subtitles, you're not going to like this movie at all. You're going to be like, oh my God. But to me, sometimes subtitles are a little tough, but I don't know. I kind of got used to it fairly quickly while watching this one. It didn't bother me at all. And this is Nightwatch Demons Are Forever is presented in 239.1 with 5.1 and 2.0 Danish audio. The feature masters were produced by AMC. So it doesn't give you any information about the masters. They were not produced by Arrow Video. They were produced by AMC, which I assume is American Movie Classics. Now this is a double-sided poster, and it's going to be just the same as the other, where you have the original Nightwatch on one side, and these are new. This is a new artist rendering of them, and then Nightwatch Demons Are Forever on the back side. All right, now let's read a little bit about these special features. Disc 1, Nightwatch. Audio commentary by Ulla Bordedal. Another special feature called Not Afraid of the Darkness, a newly filmed interview with director of photography Dan Lawson. Now, this film, or this special feature, it is shot with a cell phone, I believe, or something like that, but it has a lot of good information about his approach to lighting and the way that he shot it. Now, this Dan Lawson he often works on Guillermo del Toro stuff. Now, he's his cinematographer. So this is one of his earlier movies, I believe. I think he was already working before that, but this is before he started working with Guillermo del Toro. But here he does talk about how he approached this. They had a very limited amount of time when they were shooting this. So they decided to shoot Steadicam for a lot of the film. So you have a lot of moving Steadicam shots, and it actually has a nice feel when you're watching the movie. And this is only for the first one. Now, he does do some pretty cool mood lighting throughout the film, and I think when you're watching this film, you're going to be fairly impressed with the cinematography. Now, the cinematography looks a little raw because they had to shoot this thing fast, but it does have that kind of, it actually adds a lot to the mood of the film, the way that it is shot and the way that it moves, and the use of practical lights throughout the film. As far as the way that this looks, the first one in Blu-ray, which was shot on film, this movie was shot on film, and there's actually some on the special features. It does show some of that, the changing the film out and things to that nature. But here, shot on film, you can see the film grain fairly predominantly. It is there, but it really it's very, very filmic, and really that's what you want. There's not any real, it doesn't look like there's any real grading done or any scrubbing to clean the film grain up. So it's good though. You can actually see a pretty good bit of detail in the closer shots. Now, if this was put to 4K, I don't know. It would probably help. You probably see a little bit more detail, but I think it looks really good in Blu-ray, and I think that this type of lighting and this type of filmmaking actually works well in Blu-ray. As far as the rest of the special features, it says, this is still on the first disc, it says Death in Denmark, an appreciation of Nightwatch and Nightwatch Demons Are Forever by film critic and Nordic noir specialist Barry Forshaw. And then there is a Nightwatch making of documentary. That's the one I was talking about earlier, where you see a lot of them changing the film out. It shows this in 1994 how they're trying to shoot this thing in a very low budget film scenario. And I've often worked in that type of situation. Now, on the second one, there's an interview with a film critic, and then there is another one with a brand new video essay by another film critic. So it's odd that on the second one, the newer movie, there isn't any new special features other than film critics talking about that. You think they'd have some kind of making of. Now, as far as the second one, the way that it looks really good. Now, this one is shot digitally. It wasn't shot with film, but I think it comes close to kind of capturing the essence of the first one in an updated like 2022 time frame, and it often looks very appealing throughout, and it does have that still kind of noirish feel going on. It does have it. Some scenes look a little newer, but it still has that tension and that same kind of type of dread. And again, I was talking about earlier, just seeing some of these characters like so many years later, and it's just like kind of jarring. So let's go ahead and rate the film. I'm going to rate the movie on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. I'm also going to rate Arrow Video's release here. I'm going to rate the film, the first movie. Oh, it's hard. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I think it is worth checking out. I really like the film. I like the indie spirit of the film. Kind of a build up, a nice sense of dread building up within the film, and it is very unique the way it focuses on these other characters, and just the Danish attitudes. You can kind of see that it's very similar to the attitudes in the Kingdom. As far as what Arrow Video, no, I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and rate Nightwatch 2, Demons Are Forever. I'm going to give that one 3 stars. I did like it. It felt maybe a little bit of a retread, but it is done a lot differently. It was really good that they got most of the main cast back in it, or the surviving characters. They got almost all of them back in there, except for one. And well, that got one of the actresses, they had to recast her, but she's only in it briefly. But and I do like the way it follows the daughter, and she carries the film fairly good. I really do like her performance. I think it's a very strong performance throughout the film. And Nicholas Coster-Waldau does have a fairly sizable supporting role in it. He's still in the movie a pretty good bit, but she's definitely the main character. As far as what Arrow Video has delivered here, I'm going to give them 4 stars for this. I really like it. It would have been better if it would have been 4K, but I do like the fact that they have 2 films in here. I would have also liked to, if they had the American remake, that would have really been really awesome. They did a good job with some of these special features. It would have been nice to see more for the newer movie, but there's only like some critic essays and things of that nature. But I really enjoyed watching these films. Now, you do have to have a tolerance for reading subtitles if you're checking this out. But if you would do me a favor, now you see this box right here. If you click on this box, it's going to bring you to another one of my video reviews, and you can check that out later on or right now. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Thanks for watching.